All right, hey there guys, Sam here with you. It's Monday, March 11th, midday here. Take a look at Dash to Bitcoin. Now this is a long-time favorite project of mine. There's some signs of life here. Now, of course, like all the alts, the damage has been extreme. Now, this is a 2-hour on Binance. And we do have a path for this to have finished here. So I'm just working from... It's my level up here. This is the, well, let me back out a little bit so you can put it in context. So if we look at it here, I'm using this pivot here. You know, this is one of those examples where, well, you got to get that off of the chart. There's so many different ways you can count this. I don't know that it really matters here. All I've done really is just wick off the lowest low here to see if, you know, whether it's A, B, C, or I just don't think it matters, actually, to tell you the truth here. So if I pull this back, and we've got these spikes on Binance here, just looking at where we are. Well, if this is a candidate for a long-term low, well, I can get 5 down into it. So again, it's open. As I've said many times, 10 Elliotation is likely to give you 10 different counts here. But let's go back down to that 2-hour here and see. This is what I'm wicking off as our potentially a low here. Got the good clean 5. Now it's interesting. It would appear, again, there's a little subjectivity here. It would appear that we get back-to-back truncated fifths. So if I open this up and then focus on this section from here, we get, it's unusual. So we're getting very deep twos, and then we're truncating the fifth on both of these, almost exactly the same distance. If they are correctly labeled, if we do indeed have a 1 deep 2, the ABC plays, and then yet again another 1 2. Well, so this of course, very deep. So you would want to look at these and say, well, how similar are they? Well, remember, an algo doesn't care about an Elliott count, so it's not going to play a truncated fifth. It's just going to use dominant swing. So here's the first reaction at the golden zone. You see, and then they break 786. It's a little sloppy down here, but that does hold it. So that would have you leaning more into this as an ABC down for a deep 2 at the 786. And coming off of that, we go yet again into a 1. You know, it's certainly deep. I mean, it almost invalidates down here, but we sneak away with it. So there is a contender here for a diagonal, for a leading diagonal into the 1. Then I get my A, B, C. Yeah, it's a little sloppy, and it is certainly very deep, but it doesn't invalidate. If I can get right on there. Let's zoom in a little bit more here. I mean, it is close. So if I'm right on it here, we come just barely shy. And I think you got to, because of this ABC here, I think you have to lean into this as your 2, about as close as they go before invalidating. But then the push here suggests that potentially that's your 3. Oh, here, this would be your, so you can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 3. Now, again, it's a little bit of a stretch. So you look at it here and say, well, why wouldn't it be here? Well, I've got straight 5 coming down. Looks like and then I've got 3 here. So this looks more like I've got A, B, and truncated C, right? So, you know, it ain't gorgeous, no doubt about it. But the basic structure here, I think, lends itself more to this. Didn't want all that on there just yet. That we've got this kind of a triangle formation here. We get, this is, oh, that was the defining characteristic of crypto in 2017. Maybe, and then you'd have a very, oh, you can barely see it here, but there's a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can get it to play. So yet again, another truncated fifth, and it's not perfectly technical. So we look here, you know, a little chop around the 38, between 38 and the 50. Don't quite make the golden zone. Get this semi sort of a triangular formation here, and then break up. So I think that's not unreasonable to play that as a 1. So your complete count here would be, oh, come back here. So we get, here's the 1, here's the 2, 3, 4. I'm putting the 4 here, and we're coming up for the 5. So this algo denied here. But now note what happens after we come off of that. So let me zoom back here. So it's so close. They're almost. Get over here. Okay. So on the assumption that's correctly identified as a completed 5. Well, now you got to make a judgment call. So as I was just showing you on the previous one, algo is not going to consider a truncated 5. Algo is going to use the dominant swing. So pivot to pivot, what do we do? Right to the golden zone. So a contender for the 2 here, and this certainly looks corrective. Now there's a lot of, again, this could be probably counted multiple ways. I've got it as a double zigzag. So we can go A, B, C, X, A, B, C, Y, A, B, C, X, A, B, C for the Z. So you have a very, well, if you think the Elliott is BS, you're just sideways, right? So if you're not into that, right, so we can just say, well, we got a big choppy sideways market, lack of trend. Just nothing here. So a breakout of this zone here, well, now here's where the Elliott can be helpful. If it's correctly identified as a completed, well, an impulse with a truncated 5th, but a completed motive wave. How about we say it that way? If that's identified correctly as the completed motive wave, it's certainly, and you can see this little channel shaping here, we have a strong contender here if we get legs coming out of here. If we can come out of this, and here's my target. Let me change that color back. So there's a contender for just a straight algo play. You know, Elliott aside, dominant swing, I'm in the golden zone, I've got a target. Now, from the Elliott perspective, this is, as a contender for the second here, this may be just your first target, because if it's going to go fully and you're going to get a 1618 for a true third here, well, you got pretty good profit potential there. So I don't know that I'd be looking to get out of it here, but that would be certainly a reasonable place to be looking to take an initial target. So if you had enough size here, we could split between 3 targets. That's how I would do it. All right, it takes a little here, and the final bit right here if you got that full third there. So how could we get there? Well, we can, of course, add some geometry to it. So again, I'm going to use dominant pivot to dominant pivot. So you'd be pushing up here towards the upper parallel here. So I have a contender, to take note here. So I have a contender for a golden corner pocket. Do you see it? So with that retrace right into the golden zone, we've got a golden corner pocket, a candidate for one. Now the caveat always, if that pivot holds. With that, right, you've got there's your best odds in trading. So if it holds, you've got 80% odds of making the median line. Now it could go there here, we don't know, but you just, those, as long as that pivot holds, that 80% maintains, and as I've said probably 800 times on here, that is the single best odds you get in trading. There is no other setup, nothing anywhere and under any conditions with any combination of indicators or whatever the hell you're using. You simply do not get better odds than that. So is that tradable? Absolutely tradable. Now you're a little late to the party here because you've had a push and then a retrace to test it, and it's so far held. So too late? Not necessarily, right? If we're going to break here, there's plenty of upside. So even if you're a buyer here, on this little pullback here, and we just use the first target, we can be very clear about the stop, right? Our 80% is tied to that pivot holding. So if you're a buyer here, there's 3.5 to 1 if we get the full push up for the open this so we can see it a little better. If we're going to get a true third here and get a 1618, well, then you got 7.3 to 1. So even though you're a little late, now we are stuck in this channel, this downsloping channel, which is, it's been fairly well defined here. But, so you got to make a decision. So here I am on a 2-hour. So either you wait for the break out of this channel and then the first retrace, maybe we come back and we retrace the lower parallel here and then look to get on board. So that potentially could be the third of the larger third. So you've got a reasonable target here. But with the golden corner here, as I said, this would be a reasonable place for a first target. So if you bring it back down here to just your first target, you've got 3.5 to 1. And that's assuming you're going to wait for a little pullback here, maybe back to the 50, the middle of the range, or you take it now, you're still going to get 3 to 1. So very tradable event. And this is, So this is a really strong project here. So whether you're going to go, let's see, what do I have? Well, I thought it, yeah. Do I have it over here? Yeah, I do. So here's Dash, right? They're on buy recommendation here. Again, this is a site I just like the way they organize their data here. So this is on Coin Checkup here. It's a good place to do just if you're not familiar with the project, whether it's Dash or something you haven't seen before. Good place to just do a little research on it. Again, very, very high on their algo score. Very, very high. Right, then buy recommendation, you can catch up on what's happening with Dash. So if I come back here, it's not unreasonable to be looking for this breakout. Now, if you wanted to wait for the break, so often what will happen in it with a channel that is that well defined, if there is a break, it'll come back and test it. So if this kicks out of here, there's often very common to see a retrace. Well, even if you think about how we'd get out of here. So if we're going to get a motive wave, you got a pretty nice ABC here. So if we're going to go 3, 4, 5 to get us the one wave. So if the 2 is in and the golden corner holds, and however you count this, let's just call it the sideways chop that lands at a 2. If we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, we don't know whether we get a diagonal or, let's say it this way, if we get a motive wave, all right. So if we come out of that, here's what I'm after here, and we get up to something like this, then if you wanted to wait, a push back here to test that channel, right? So here's the line of the channel, and then we go. Now you risk getting left behind, of course, right? It could go and not look well. At some point there'll be a retrace, right? The people that caught this, that got the golden corner, or the first retrace, the temptation to take profit will be overwhelming, and of course there will be an algo that you'll have to fight through on the way up. So, as there always is, always an algo on the other side. So if we just take that swing to that swing, well, here 38. 50, 618, those are all going to be challenges to get through. So potential resistance points. So 50 could create the pivot for the 3rd, back down for the 4, 618. Golden zone from the other side creates the pivot for the 5 of the 1 at this degree. So from the 2, that could easily shape our 1 wave. Well, with that established, then you'd be looking for that 3-wave counter trend to maybe bring you back down here. Now you got the perfect setup on that channel, and this may hold it, right? The upper parallel here. Maybe you get it right here, wouldn't that's then it becomes a must take. If you're going to come down here and get the intersection here of this channel, the retrace from above of the channel and the lower parallel of the median lines, and that's a must take. If you get that kind of confluence, just out of curiosity, and again, I don't know where this is, but note here. So here would be golden zone. So if this is going to kick out of here and you get this set up, there's a must take trade right there. Absolutely zero hesitation. I take that 100 out of 100 times if I see it, right? So this is something to be watching. Now you'd have to put some alerts on this, and again, you don't know that it's going to make the 618. Could just pivot at the 50. But though, if you see that kind of confluence, that's one you absolutely want to take a long, hard look at it. How about I say it that way? So, there's some signs of life here in some of the stronger projects, but of course, we could just stay in this chop for a while. So, use your own discretion here and what your risk tolerance is and your patience level to wait to see if we're going to break out of here. I mean, this was the perfect buy. We're not that far from it. But, when you get something like that. So for any of you that haven't had a look at Dash lately, I keep it as one of the majors that I will consistently look back to. And this is encouraging. But first challenge, let's break this downsloping trend line here as part of this channel. Then we'll have more confidence in this pivot as the potential 2, and maybe we get out of here. All right, so that's about all I can add here, but it's definitely one to have on your radar. All right, guys. See you later.